one past or many? Did you notice the title of this book? Our pasts. We have used the word pasts in plural to draw attention to the fact that the past was different for different groups of people. For example, the lives of herders or farmers were different from those of kings and queens. The lives of merchants were different from those of craftspersons, and so on. Also, as is true even today, people followed different practices and customs in different parts of the country. Page number 7. For example, today, most people living in the Andaman Islands get their own food by fishing, hunting, and collecting forest produce. By contrast, most people living in cities depend on others for supplies of food. Differences such as these existed in the past as well. Besides, there's another kind of difference. We know a great deal about kings and the battles they fought because they kept records of their victories. Generally, ordinary people such as hunters, fishing folk, gatherers, farmers, or herders did not keep records of what they did. While archaeology helps us to find out about their lives, there's much that remains unknown. What do dates mean? If somebody asks you the date, you will probably mention the day, month, and year. 2000 and something. These years are counted from the date generally assigned to the birth of Jesus Christ, the founder of Christianity. So, 2000 means 2000 years after the birth of Christ. All dates before the birth of Christ are counted backwards and usually have the letters BC, which means before Christ, added on. In this book, we will refer to dates going back from the present using 2000 as our starting point. Page number 8. Letters with dates. BC. We have seen stands for before Christ. You will sometimes find AD before dates. This stands for two Latin words, Anno Domini, meaning in the year of the Lord, that is, Christ. So, 2012 can also be written as AD 2012. Sometimes CE is used instead of AD and BCE instead of BC. The letters CE stand for Common Era and BCE for Before Common Era. We use these terms because the Christian era is now used in most countries of the world. In India, we began using this form of dating from about 200 years ago. And sometimes the letters BP meaning before present are used. Find two dates mentioned on page number 3. Which set of letters would you use for them? Elsewhere, we have seen that inscriptions are inscribed on hard surfaces. Many of these were inscribed several hundreds of years ago. All inscriptions contain both scripts and languages. Languages which were used as well as scripts have changed over time. So, how do scholars understand what was inscribed? This can be done through a process known as decipherment. On page number 8, a picture is shown consisting of various inscriptions. Page number 9. One of the most famous stories of decipherment comes from Egypt, a country in North Africa, where there were kings and queens about 5,000 years ago. Rosetta is a town on the north coast of Egypt. And here, an inscribed stone was found which contained inscriptions in 3 different languages and scripts: Greek and 2 forms of Egyptian. Scholars who could read Greek figured out that the names of kings and queens were enclosed in a little frame called cartouche. They then placed the Greek and the Egyptian signs side by side and identified the sounds for which the Egyptian letters stood. As you can see, a lion stood for L and a bird for A. Once they knew what the letters stood for, they could read other inscriptions as well. Imagine you have to interview an archaeologist. Prepare a list of 5 questions that you would like to ask him or her. Let's recall. Number 1. Match the following sentences. Narmada Valley, Magad, Garo Hills, Indus and its tributaries, Ganga Valley. On the right-hand side, the following sentences are written. The first big kingdom. Hunting and gathering. Cities about 2,500 years ago. Early agriculture. The first cities. Number 2. List one major difference between manuscripts and inscriptions. The key words for this exercise are traveling, manuscript, inscription, archaeology, historian, source. Decipherment. Let's discuss. Number 3. Return to Rashida's question. Can you think of some answers to it? Page number 10. Number 4. Make a list of all the objects that archaeologists may find. Which of these could be made of stone? Number 5. Why do you think ordinary men and women did not generally keep records of what they did? Number 6. Describe at least 2 ways in which you think the lives of kings would have been different from those of farmers. Let's do. 7. Find the word craftspersons on page 1. List at least 5 different crafts that you know about today. Are the craftspersons A. Men, B. Women, C. Both men and women. 8. What were the subjects on which books were written in the past? Which of these would you like to read? Some important dates. The beginning of agriculture, 8,000 years ago. The first cities on the Indus, 4,700 years ago. Cities in the Ganga Valley, a big kingdom in Magad. "2,500 years ago. The present about 2000 AD or CE.